Designed to help you fall asleep. On Snoozecast, we read excerpts from public domain works and, occasionally, original stories. Find us on snoozecast.com and follow us on social media and wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd like to thank our listeners, and we're so glad to help you fall asleep. If you enjoy our show, please write us a review on the Apple Podcast app or iTunes, even if that isn't how you usually listen to us, because it's the best way to help others find us. Also, share it with a friend. This episode is brought to you by Tandem Bicycles. Tonight, we'll be reading a selection of South African folk tales collected during the 19th century. It includes animal tales with classic wisdom, including the Monkeys Fiddle and the Lost Message. These stories were collected by Dr. James Honey and published in 1910. Let's get cozy. Close your eyes. Relax your body into the softness of your bed. Now, take a few deep breaths. The Monkeys Fiddle. Hunger and want forced Monkey one day to forsake his land and to seek elsewhere among strangers for much needed work. Bulbs, earth beans, scorpions, insects, and such things were completely exhausted in his own land, but fortunately he received, for the time being, shelter with a great uncle of his, Orang-Utang, who lived in another part of the country. When he had worked for quite a while, he wanted to return home, and as recompense his great uncle gave him a fiddle and a bow and arrow, and told him that with the bow and arrow he could hit and kill anything he desired, and with the fiddle he could force anything to dance. The first he met upon his return to his own land was Brer Wolf. This old fellow told him all the news, and also that he had since early morning been attempting to stalk a deer, but all in vain. Then Monkey laid before him all the wonders of the bow and arrow that he carried on his back, and assured him if he could but see the deer, he would bring it down for him. When Wolf showed him the deer, Monkey was ready, and down fell the deer. They made a good meal together, but instead of Wolf being thankful, jealousy overmastered him, and he begged for the bow and arrow. When Monkey refused to give it to him, he thereupon began to threaten him with his greater strength. And so when Jackal passed by, Wolf told him that Monkey had stolen his bow and arrow. After Jackal had heard both of them, he declared himself unqualified to settle the case alone, and he proposed that they bring the matter to the court of Lion, Tiger, and the other animals. In the meantime, he declared he would take possession of what had been the cause of their quarrel, so that it would be safe, as he said. But he immediately brought to earth all that was eatable, so there was a long time of slaughter before Monkey and Wolf agreed to have the affair in court. Monkey's evidence was weak, and to make it worse, Jackal's testimony was against him. Jackal thought that in this way it would be easier to obtain the bow and arrow from Wolf for himself. And so fell the sentence against Monkey. Theft was looked upon as a great wrong. He must be punished. The fiddle was still at his side, and he received, as a last favor from the court, the right to play a tune on it. He was a master player of his time, and in addition to this came the wonderful power of his charmed fiddle. Thus, when he struck the first note of cock-crow upon it, the court began at once to show an unusual and spontaneous liveliness, and before he came to the first waltzing turn of the old tune, the whole court was dancing like a whirlwind. Over and over, quicker and quicker, sounded the tune of cock-crow on the charmed fiddle, until some of the dancers, exhausted, fell down, although still keeping their feet in motion. But Monkey, musician as he was, heard and saw nothing of what had happened around him. With his head placed lovingly against the instrument and his eyes half closed, he played on, keeping time ever with his foot. Wolf was the first to cry out in pleading tones, breathlessly, "Please stop, Cousin Monkey. For love's sake, please stop." But Monkey did not even hear him. Over and over sounded the resistless waltz of cock-crow. After a while, Lion showed signs of fatigue, and when he had gone the round once more with his young lion wife, he growled as he passed Monkey, "My whole kingdom is yours, ape, if you just stop playing." "I do not want it," answered Monkey, "but withdraw the sentence and give me my bow and arrow, and you, Wolf, acknowledge that you stole it from me." I acknowledge, cried Wolf, while Lion cried at the same instant that he withdrew the sentence. Monkey gave them a few more turns of the cock-crow, gathered up his bow and arrow, and seated himself high up in the nearest camel-thorn tree. The court and other animals were so afraid that he might begin again that they hastily disbanded to new parts of the world. The Lost Message. The ant has had from time immemorial many enemies, and because he is small and destructive, there have been a great many slaughters among them. Not only were most of the birds their enemies, But Anteater lived almost wholly from them, and Centipede beset them every time and at all places when he had the chance. So now there were a few among them who thought it would be well to hold counsel together and see if they could not come to some arrangement whereby they could retreat to some place of safety when attacked by robber birds and animals. But at the gathering, their opinions were most discordant, and they could come to no decision. There was red ant, rice ant, black ant, wagtail ant, gray ant, shining ant, and many other varieties. The discussion was a true babble of diversity, which continued for a long time and came to nothing. A part desired that they should all go into a small hole in the ground and live there. Another part wanted to have a large and strong dwelling built on the ground where nobody could enter but an ant. Still another wanted to dwell in trees so as to get rid of Anteater, forgetting entirely that there they would be the prey of birds. Another part seemed inclined to have wings and fly. And, as has already been said, this deliberation amounted to nothing, and each party resolved to go to work in its own way and on its own responsibility. Greater unity than that which existed in each separate faction could be seen nowhere in the world. Each had his appointed task. Each did his work regularly and well, and all worked together in the same way. From among them they chose a king. That is to say, some of the groups did, and they divided the labor so that all went as smoothly as it possibly could. But each group did it in its own way, and not one of them thought of protecting themselves against the onslaught of birds or Anteater. The red ants built their house on the ground and lived under it, but Anteater leveled to the ground in a minute what had cost them many days of precious labor. The rice ants lived under the ground, and with them it went no better, for whenever they came out, Anteater visited them and took them out sack and pack. The wagtail ants fled to the trees, but there, on many occasions, sat Centipede waiting for them, or the birds gobbled them up. The gray ants had intended to save themselves from extermination by taking to flight, but this also availed them nothing, because the lizard, the hunting spider, and the birds went a great deal faster than they. When the insect king heard that they could come to no agreement, he sent them the secret of unity and the message of work together. But unfortunately, he chose for his messenger the beetle, and he has never yet arrived at the ants. so that they are still today the embodiment of discord and consequently the prey of enemies. The judgment of Baboon. One day, it is said, the following story happened. Mouse had torn the clothes of Itkler, the tailor, who then went to Baboon and accused Mouse with these words, "In this manner I come to thee. Mouse has torn my clothes, but will not know anything of it, and accuses Cat. Cat protests likewise her innocence, and says, Dog must have done it, but Dog denies it also, and declares Wood has done it, and Wood throws the blame on Fire, and says, Fire did it. Fire says, Have not, Water did it. Water says, Elephant tore the clothes, and Elephant says, Ant tore them. Thus a dispute has risen among them. Therefore I, Itkler, come to thee with this proposition. Assemble the people and try them in order that I may get satisfaction." Thus he spake, and Baboon assembled them for trial. Then they made the same excuses which had been mentioned by Itkler, each one putting the blame upon the other. So Baboon did not see any other way of punishing them, save through making them punish each other. He therefore said, "Mouse, give Itkler satisfaction." Mouse, however, pleaded not guilty. But Baboon said, "Cat, bite Mouse." She did so. He then put the same question to Cat, and when she exculpated herself, Baboon called to Dog, "Here, bite Cat." In this manner Baboon questioned them all, one after the other, but they each denied the charge. Then he addressed the following words to them and said, "Wood, beat Dog. Fire, burn wood. Water, quench fire. Elephant, drink water. Ant, bite elephant in his most tender parts." They did so, and since that day they cannot any longer agree with each other. Ant bit elephant. Elephant swallows water. Water quenches fire. Fire consumes wood. Wood beats dog. Dog bites cat. And cat bites mouse. Through this judgment, Itkler got satisfaction and addressed Baboon in the following manner. "Yes, now I am content, since I have received satisfaction, and with all my heart I thank thee, Baboon, because thou hast exercised justice on my behalf and given me redress." Then Baboon said, "From today I will not any longer be called Jan, but Baboon shall be my name. Since that time, Baboon walks on all fours, having probably lost the privilege of walking erect through this foolish judgment. The world's reward. Once there was a man that had an old dog, so old that the man desired to put him aside. The dog had served him very faithfully when he was young, but ingratitude is the world's reward, and the man now wanted to dispose of him. The old, dumb creature, however, ferreted out the plan of his master, and so at once resolved to go away of his own accord. After he had walked quite a way, he met an old bull in the veldt. "Don't you want to go with me?" asked the dog. "Where?" was the reply. "To the land of the aged," said the dog, "where troubles don't disturb you, and thanklessness does not deface the deeds of man." "Good," said the bull. "I am your companion." The two now walked on and found a ram. The dog laid the plan before him, and all moved forward together until they afterwards came successfully upon a donkey, a cat, a cock, and a goose. These joined their company, and the seven set out on their journey. Late one night, they came to a house, and through the open door they saw a table spread with all kinds of nice food, of which some robbers were having their fill. It would help nothing to ask for admittance, and seeing that they were hungry, they must think of something else. Therefore the donkey climbed up on the bull, the rein on the donkey, the dog on the rein, the cat on the dog, the goose on the cat, and the cock on the goose, and with one accord they all let out terrible, threatening noises. The bull began to bellow, the donkey to bray, the dog to bark, the ram to bleat, the cat to meow, the goose to giggle, and the cock to crow, all without cessation. The people in the house were frightened perfectly limp. They glanced out through the front door, and there they stared on the strange sight. Some of them took to the ropes over the back lower door. Some disappeared through the window, and in a few counts, the house was empty. Then the 7 old animals climbed down from one another, stepped into the house, and satisfied themselves with the delicious food. But when they had finished, there still remained a great deal of food, too much to take with them on their remaining journey, and so together they contrived a plan to hold their position until the next day after breakfast. The dog said, "See here, I am accustomed to watch at the front door of my master's house," and thereupon flopped himself down to sleep. The bull said, "I go behind the door," and there he took his position. The ram said, "I will go up on the loft." The donkey, "I at the middle door." The cat, "I in the fireplace." The goose, "I in the back door." And the cock said, "I am going to sleep on the bed." The captain of the robbers, after a while, sent one of his men back to see if the creatures had yet left the house. The man very cautiously came into the neighborhood, listened and listened, but he heard nothing. He peeped through the window and saw in the grate just 2 coals still glimmering, and thereupon started to walk through the front door. There the old dog seized him by the leg. He jumped into the house, but the bull was ready, swept him up with his horns, and tossed him on the loft. Here the ram received him and pushed him off the loft again. Reaching ground, he made for the middle door, but the donkey gave up a terrible braying, and at the same time gave him a kick that landed him in the fireplace, where the cat flew at him and scratched him nearly to pieces. He then jumped out through the back door, and here the goose got him by the trousers. When he was some distance away, the cock crowed. He thereupon ran, so that you could bear the stones rattle.